Salut. Now, I was walking through the streets of social media just the other day, yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, and I saw a post on some of the very big blogs in Nigeria that have global, influence. And I saw a post about a man who was complaining about the homework that his son was given. If I were to rate that boy, I rate him between 5 to 7. Okay, I don't think 5 to 7. And the man was angry and he said the homework that was given to the son was that he should draw his aunt and color her. And the other one was also drawing and coloring, but I don't know who the person he was to draw and color. That is this what you're supposed to teach a child in school? That the child is supposed to be learning spellings, copying notes, and that he's going to the school the next day. Go, he told the son, go, don't do the homework. Go, I'm going to be in your school tomorrow, and that teacher will hear from me. And I went through the comments, and I could see uh, an alarming level of ignorance. Forgive me. I don't mean it disrespectfully. The reason why I have to do the sequel, or I have to, not a sequel per se, I have to react or respond to that post is because this is a fundamental problem in society, in education. Parents need to understand the rudiments and some of the foundational things when it comes to learning and teaching with their words or their children. And sometimes when you interfere with the work that the teacher is doing, particularly if this teacher is a teacher that knows her work or his work, it becomes a problem. That is why we begin to have schools that are tailored to suit the emotions and the level of knowledge of the parents. That's why some schools, modern day schools, are drifting from the basic educational foundation to satisfy what the parents know. I don't know how people who are knowledgeable will go by the script or the dictates of who doesn't know. No, a teacher is not supposed to please. A teacher is supposed to do what is best for the child. Now, let me go back to the post that provoked this conversation. When a child is growing up, particularly in a climate like Nigeria, where I come from, we do not have too many schools with all of the basic uh, environmental, needs for a child's learning in the school environment, from playgrounds for nursery, from nursery one to maybe when they're between ages 2 to 5. Small, all of those sporting activities that could help them. Just picking balls, but in their classroom. So what we have mostly is the use of the pencil, the books, the crayons, the biros. That's what we use most of the time. Now, why am I making this reference? When a child is growing up, you have what you call the psychomotor domain, the cognitive domain, and the affective domain. Now, these domains develop different areas of your children at that elementary stage, at that nursery stage. Okay, so the child is building fine motor skills. What do the fine motor skills help the child to do? To be able to button his shirt, to lace his shoe, to comb his hair, to be able to coordinate the body. Okay, to be able to coordinate the body significantly so. So now, having said this, when the teacher gives your child the assignment of coloring, I hear a lot of parents complaining. Ah, this teacher and so color, color, color. This school, they are not doing a good job. And your child is just 3 years old. You say the child should learn how to spell. Some schools now, under that pressure, get people who, you hear a child who is 3 years, 4 years, is spelling hippopotamus, is spelling binoculars, is spelling gigantic words, but this child is not able to use sounds to read or to spell. This child cannot even make the sounds. And we think this is okay. We are impressed that the child was able to memorize 2 times table, 3 times table at age 4, because that's what we think is that this child is intelligent. That's the standard we have. When the child is a mouthful of so many things, we are not paying attention to the step-to-step development of the child. Now, let me go back again to the coloring. What that coloring does for your child is help in building the child's fine motor skills. That is the psychomotor development. When the child is moving the hands, that is helping in developing the hand. That is why we see that children who grow in rural communities are children who you notice that they are physically very gallant. A 5-year-old child cannot be compared to a 5-year-old who gets into the car in the morning, who has a nanny carrying him up and down. No, no, no. You can't compare them. It's because that child is actively, so the psychomotor, the fine motor skills develop faster. And need I remind us that everything your children are learning in the classroom is actually for performance. So performance is a function of your fine motor skills, how you are able to use your, how you're able to coordinate, how you're able to move, how you're able to make sense of everything. So when you prohibit or when you say you're going to attack a teacher, although I must say that these things, I'm working with the fact that the teachers as well know what they are doing. Okay? So when your child is 2, 3, and they give the child, say this school to the color, let the child be able to color. Then you can assess what is this child. You see, the child is developing. That child will be able to do a lot of other things. The coloring will help the child with writing. The coloring will help the child to use the hands properly. To carry stuff, to do things. There are some children, we think we live in an age where we are underlooking and undermining some of these things. You don't have a nursery, you don't have a nursery in your home, you don't have play apparatus the child can play with to also develop fine motor skills in your home, and possibly the school you send the child to doesn't have it. So the option will be to do a lot of coloring, a lot of repetitive writing, so that you can develop the handwriting and you can do all of that. You're building the child's psychomotor. And now the homework says draw your auntie. Now, in drawing your auntie, the child is engaging the cognitive domain. The child will picture the auntie and try to interpret what the reasoning, what the head is saying, what the mind is saying, and the child will try to manipulate everything to ensure that he or she meets that description. This is who my auntie is. At least the child can. Okay, if the person says if the homework says draw your auntie, and the child now goes to draw a spoon, or the child now goes to draw a leaf, then at that child's age, right? Maybe the child is 5, then you know there's a problem. If the child can draw something close to a female figure, then fine, this child understands. The comprehension is there. Definitely the child won't get the exact picture. But when a child, you say draw the auntie, the child draws or puts down what is not even close, then you begin to look closely at this child. This time they say draw something. You begin to look at the area of the child's need. Is this a special need child? Is this an exceptional child? Okay, so you see, with that homework, the cognitive and the psychomotor are developing at the same time. And it will shock you that the affective domain is also being influenced greatly by the father's reaction. The father said to the child, go, don't do your homework. The teacher will hear from me. Tomorrow, when that child doesn't do his homework because he has a father who is going to go and challenge the teacher, we begin to ask questions why the child is being rude to the teacher. Because affective domain of learning is emotions, feelings, values, and children pretty much mirror from their parents. My mother is a clanging cymbal. Of course, what else do you expect from the child? An apple does not fall far from the tree. And we do these things unconsciously. I'll forgive the ignorance. Forgive me, sorry. I do not mean to be rude on this recording. Let us not do our children disservice. Let us not hurt our children in a bid to think that we love them. Little exercises, pick up, do this. I'm very particular about that age, 0 to 5 years, 6, 7. Primary 1, primary 2. From that nursery to primary crèche nursery, primary 1, primary 2. And you see, that's why you see some parents will rush their children to go to JSS 1. He's a very intelligent girl. She's a very intelligent girl. He's a very intelligent boy. Then you do a double promotion. Then when you do a double promotion, the child ends up in JSS 1 at 8 or 9. And then when the child ends up there, the child now cannot cope with the workload of JSS 1. And the child becomes physically and mentally fatigued. And the child, because this child is not doing well, it is because you're not taking into recognition that development comes in stages and phases. And the most of children go through a particular trajectory. It takes a few, maybe the twice exceptional children, special needs children. That is a different thing. I have 4 girls at home at the moment. Their brother is off to school. One of them, the third, says she cannot, she made some, you know, shared her concerns with me, and I realized that she cannot cope with her age is appropriate. But because of her development, she can't cope with the work stress, the workload of her class. And I told the teacher, let's drop this workload. She will not participate in this. She will not participate in that because it's overwhelming her. If I want to maximize what she has and help, I have to support her and work with her to a reasonable extent at her pace, because I've noticed over the years that she's not able to really, it takes time for her. She grapples. So now she's in a good place. When she's done with her hours of classroom study, send her to the violin class, send her to this. That's what she wants. She doesn't want to sit in a classroom any longer. While she can't do that, while that is her academic plan, that's her plan, her younger sister enjoys sitting in class and listening. Her younger sister can cope with her own load. Will I compare the two children? No. Everybody with their needs, and you meet them where, they ought to be met. So please, when the teacher, and I hope that the schools also understand why they are giving this, of course they do. Teaching is a technical field. It's not everybody just. That's why we have what they call methodology, teaching methods. Teachers are taught. That's why you have teachers training colleges. That's why I have programs like Train the Trainers. You have all those things so that the teachers will be abreast with the skills and the method. The fact that you're a mother, the fact that you're a parent doesn't mean that you know the teaching methodologies, except you put your heart and your head to it. The fact that university graduate doesn't make you an automatic teacher. You must get the certification to be a teacher because you learn all of these things and how to impart knowledge. So when parents keep altering, keep shouting, that's why, even though I must say that these days schools have become a business. And so people are opening schools, making the buildings look fine, and you choose the school because it's a class thing, and you don't know that there are requirements for the people you should trust with the teaching of your children. You must be sensitive to the methods. It is true that you do not know it as a parent, but please look out for the teacher. So what you do, you don't confront your children's teachers, particularly if you know they are doing the right thing. You ask questions. You have sane conversations. You seek for clarity. You ask for understanding. Parents and teachers are in a partnership. Not just because you are a parent, you say, don't do your homework, I will go and deal. There are times that I have had reservations with my children's homework. Never a time will I confront you. Instead, I will call you and we have a conversation about it. You can, sorry, I don't want to say verify these facts, please. It's been abused in a media space. But that's what I do most of the time. I remember trying to tell, I remember several times I've tried to make some adjustments. I don't want to be specific on them. And I'm enjoying it with the school my kids are in because they understand, because we have these conversations, and I'm eternally grateful to them. All the schools my children have attended, they work closely because then that is making me understand that there are schools that really want to work with the parents. So teachers are skilled, teachers are trained. Your persistent interference due to a lack of understanding or know-how is problematic for your own children. Ask questions and have these conversations. Okay? Where you don't understand, where you think that it is wrong, because yes, some schools are just fancy. You just get graduates and you think that that's all it takes to teach. There are methods to these things. This recording is not to offend you. It's just to say, look, this is what I observe. This is my quota. Into saying that when your child is in a school, look out for self. Choosing a school for your child is not show business. It's not show. It's not because there's a class of people attending that school. It's not, and I want to use this medium to appeal to the government to go back and look into education. Education comes in levels and stratas. Okay, pay attention to the elementary education. The early child education. Pay attention to all of the areas, even to technical. Pay attention to all of them. But when the foundation is not proper, I've had the privilege of teaching in higher institutions. And I see that some of the problems that the people in the higher institutions have is that the foundation is faulty. The foundation. But when you get the foundation right, the basic things of reading and comprehension and writing, That is a skill that we underlook. If you cannot read and comprehend, if you cannot write and make sense of your writing, if your communication is faulty, then there is a problem. So please, I beg us, let us be patient with the teachers. And those of us who are going into the business of owning schools, let us pay attention to these details. Let us partner and give our children the best. Salute.